Those ilk avant word free. Pose to my palm stung cured me. So healed, but I'm lodged stuck in the thought mud squirming. Old hill over it, blurting. Gosh, I am bald, yup, 30s, but I'm young mercy. Walled by the hands of the clock, spun fear, but it's dope still. Put the walls up, locked up, learning. I am the turnkey for which I have been searching. All that I have ain't all that I am.
So, hey everyone. Today I wanted to break down one of my favorite songs of the last 25 years, The Catch by a fantastic friend of mine, AllOne. Amazing rapper, amazing writer, one of the best freestylers I've ever had the pleasure of rapping with, and just a fantastic creator all around. So he's here, and we'll be discussing some of the ideas, hopefully all of the ideas involved in the creation of this song, and we'll even break it down. But The Catch is available for streaming on Bandcamp right now. You can catch all of his merch there, pun intended. And he has a ton of great merch that's just so beautifully done, like everything he touches. So welcome, AllOne.
Hey man, thanks for that lovely intro.
Hey, what's up, man?
Man, you know, just thinking about second chances, and I'm grateful for them.
Yeah, man, like to delete everything and start over.
Yeah, that's something I feel like I've been needing to do lately.
Yeah. Well, if you guys don't get the inside joke, which I don't know why you would, I deleted everything of the last recording, about 15 to 20 minutes of work. So here we are again, take two. Better than ever. But today we're going to be looking at The Catch. And before we get into the actual breakdown of the song, let's discuss a little bit about it. So, AllOne, what compelled you to make this song in the first place?
Well, the beat was really great. Conscious Robot, who produced the whole album.
Yes.
They're incredible. And I heard this instrumental, and I think I was writing some stuff, and I had found sort of a cool cadence that I had been playing around with and kind of scatting along with for years, and never really like got anything actually like written into, just kind of like knew the rhythm was there. And then I just started kind of writing, and I wanted to express a lot more like flippant, kind of jokey, relaxed expressions of myself, and kind of capture or catch glimpses into vignettes of my life, and catalog basically all these instances where it's like, oh yeah, I've kind of always been this weirdo, and let me share a couple of bits and pieces of that, and how maybe it's all culminated through a timeline of absurdity into what I am right now, and like where I'm at and what I'm trying to do, and if there was a through line at all. So that kind of became the challenge for the song.
Which you had mentioned earlier in another lifetime. You started with the chorus, right? The hook at the end, and for the title of the song, right? Was that the case?
Yeah, so the song didn't begin with it doesn't in the song, and didn't begin with in the creative process. I don't remember what I wrote first. I think the 4-bar sort of phrase at the end, or the 4-line phrase at the end, that serves as the sort of chorus refrain, that was a separate thing, and it felt really apt and summarial in a way that I thought fit the rest of it. And I knew that I wanted something at the end where the beat kind of opens up, and after I have this long, dense, sort of interwoven verse, essentially, I thought, okay, I should have this. And so that's the catch, comes from just the phrase in that chorus. I wanted it to just be really simple, and it has the dual meaning of being both like, there's a catch, there's a sort of a trick, there's something to surprise you or ensnare you in a way, with being a creative person, or being like a sort of weird, inventive, left field type of person, that it's a double-edged sword in a way, that you're always falling on. And also that, you know, I don't, in romantically or otherwise, like I don't always I don't consider myself necessarily of value until I have the things that I consider valuable in my life, and then I kind of, you know, have this feeling like, oh man, you know, there's value in my life because I've seen these ambitions that have been dogging me, or these visions that have been plaguing and haunting me, like to fruition, and put them out. And that's kind of like the through line, I think, also in the song.
That's amazing, man. That's the sort of depth that we always get. with your stuff, and I really love the outro for the song and the chorus for the song, because it really captures your sort of like vintage Americana, but in a futuristic society appeal, which is you have both sides of that spectrum. You play really well, weird spectrum that it may be, but yeah, man, your vocals on there, your singing, it's just great to hear, and then knowing that you can go toe to toe with like the best of the battle rappers, it's just a great project to be so privy to. I mean, I know a lot of the songs because you've shared them, but really excited for Emotionauts. Shout out again to Conscious Robot, who they created all the beats on the project.
Yeah, they've done everything. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 songs that I specifically like commissioned them to do with ideas and structures that I had.
Got it.
Things I'd written, but everything else, I mean, they started following me through the Spontaneous Sundays thing that we had recorded a bunch for and freestyled for, and I think that's how they discovered me. And were sending me beats, and then they were sending me folders of stuff, and they were like, hey, would you be open to doing a song? And that kind of, I was like, yes, of course. And their work is so beautiful and layered and complex, and I would like their compositions, you know, like they're more than just kind of like beats. Like for a long time I was just doing like simple like loop sample stuff that I was rapping over, and this I thought like kind of met me in the middle and was a challenge for me. So like really hats off to them. I mean, this album is definitely more than half and half, you know, like between, even though it's them and me, and then all the people including yourself that like have contributed to it, which I'm indebted to and grateful for. Like,
don't forget it.
I won't forget you when you're famous, Cap.
They did the artwork as well, right?
Yeah, they did.
It's tremendous.
That it's incredible, and it really fits the vibe, and it's totally different than anything else I've done for other cover art. So, yeah, Conscious Robot, those guys, they are really incredible, and they've been so selfless, and I couldn't recommend them enough to anyone looking to like listen to music or even work with composers or producers. Like, incredible.
Great words, man, and they're completely accurate. I'll post the links to Conscious Robot stuff as well. A lot of awesome music to check out, a ton of it actually, composed, like Bruce said, constantly. And they have great merch as well. And the best part is they have great joint merch. I'll post a picture, or I might be wearing a shirt later to model it for you. They have a great shirt, and the logo is just fantastic, man. Love the artwork. It's trippy, but it's grounded in the themes of the album, so I'm excited. Cool. For as far as this song alone, getting into Emotionauts, how does this tie into like the larger piece of it? Does it?
Yeah, I mean, this feels like more zoomed out than some of the other songs that I feel have a bit of a theme at times, and this one's a little bit more of like an overview retrospective, and there's also a different energy with this song. Like it's brief, it comes at a fast clip. I think of it as a lot more like technical rappy, sort of like, not in a flexing way, but I feel like a lot of the appeal to me when making this song and structuring it was like how can I really like push myself on a technical level, which is always something I'm trying to think of, but this one was particularly gymnastic and athletic in its way, and I feel like also interestingly this is one of it definitely is lighter, and like my buddy Frank, who has been recording this the whole time, he says like this is probably one of his favorite like songs I've done, and feels that it's, for so many reasons, like both there's goofiness in it and it's kind of silly, and that's something I tried to like get a little more ridiculous, you know, like have some lines that are just like honest and real but kind of silly, and kind of like, you know, talking about just being like a dumb, like pimply long-haired kid, like not getting any, you know.
Yes.
And like, you know, a lot more burping than burpees. It's like a silly line, but it's like, you know, it speaks to something. And so I would say it's definitely lighter. I think it's a brighter, you know, sort of song overall in what the rest of the album is, which at times can be really, you know, as the name implies, like a lot more distraught and morose and sort of emotionally sort of deep and challenging. And this one's awesome. Like I think of it, and where it will sit in the album I haven't decided yet, but I think of this one as a little bit of a break from some of the other like sad boy songs that are on the record.
Totally. you get people that can flow really well, and you get people that can rhyme really well, and you get people that have really great content. And the Venn diagram of that is really important. That's how you build a really, well-rounded creator, rapper. And this song, man, we've talked about this before. I know it's important for you, but it just flows. And I have a I have a metaphor for how I view it and how it flows. But yeah, do you want to talk about that really quickly? The flow of the song, structurally creating it before we break it down.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, this song is essentially like one dense verse, long dense verse with what I think of as like a little prize for getting through all that at the end, where it kind of finally opens up and the tension of what I'm talking about kind of reaches a fever pitch at the very end. But like I said, I had this cadence in my head that I was messing with a lot, like randomly when I would freestyle or when I would just like rap over random beats, and I had never just been able to peg it down. And something about this beat, like it just felt right in the way, and I was like, and then I started realizing, like, okay, I have this couple of lines, and this is a technique I do a lot where I'll kind of carry a rhyme scheme. I'll try to carry a rhyme scheme for like a whole verse, and I'll pepper in inner rhyme patterns so it doesn't get too monotonous, or to kind of like create these little one-off moments that kind of stick out in people's head, and offer this other little peak of attention or a diversion of sorts. But this one, it's like elliptical almost, where it kind of like weaves in on itself through 3 rhyme patterns. One that introduces the line, a center sort of rhyme pattern, and then it ends. And I'm sure you'll get more into it, but and then it kind of ends on another rhyme pattern that's like a third. And obviously there's a lot of use of near rhymes and a lot of like use of melody of the actual lines and the cadence itself and the sort of mellifluous like melody of how that plays out, to get away with some things that like are maybe a stretch as a rhyme, but like fitting in and weaving back and forth with that, and then also triggering these extra little things in the middle. Like that was overall, like I was like, can I tell this in this is the ultimate challenge for me, was like, can I tell my story in one long verse in one single or 3 rhyme patterns that are repeating and still make it interesting and relevant and actually be like not talking nonsense the whole time, like actually keep a linear meaningful sequence of events and ideas that are indeed representative of me. And like that was the challenge that like I inevitably got sort of like ensconced in and excited about, and then that was the project of the technical aspect of making the song and structuring it and writing the verse or whatever.
Great. Because it has so much content to it, especially it's so funny reading some of these lines as a description of self, knowing you personally. But it's fantastic, man. It seems so much simpler than it is, and that's the best kind of art sometimes. It's like fractal in nature. Upon closer inspection, there's just so many details, Easter eggs, references. It's great nerdcore stuff. That's the label we don't toss around too much, but it's for people who want to study and inspect and discover more. But let's get into it. So so as I'm breaking down this song, there's so many rhyme schemes, so many structures. One of the major ones was the right? That's the starting for a lot of the stanzas. No bills, nope nil, no pills, stone built, and I'll get to my point in a second. Hang on. Then we have like the which is great because as you know, it's so fun playing with your rap namesake. So AllOne, fondant, like odd duck, squawk up. It's great, man. And you doesn't seem to make sense that you fit all of these into sentences that are actually meaningful. We have the the hurry, journey, quirky, absurdly, surely. Then we have these momentary pieces also, which are talking about like triggering smaller rhymes that pop up, like a really intricate fireworks display. We have like the uhs with the cut, some, from, fun, that just sort of fill out the piece. It's like the pathway is just really it's really fun to get from one edge of the sentence to the next. We have the or ah, which is like chatterbox, jabberjaw, had to talk, and that was one of my favorite ones because great rhyme scheme, great rhymes, but it fits in the mold of the song so well, and then it still is a new sort of like feel to it, a new bubbling rhyme scheme. And then we had a bunch bunch of other ones, man. We had the yeah, just reading this it's fantastic. The slip shot improv. It's not so. It's just amazing to look at this. And I'll put the breakdown up. Look at it in terms of the schemes, and when you see it color coded, it really is just baffling, man. The amount of work that gets put in. But yeah, please talk about this. Please break it down further for us, and let us know what that was like creating this kind of piece.
Yeah, thanks for all that. It's so, like you said, I mean, like, ideally, you don't, it's really fun, and when you're trying to push yourself and, like, push yourself on a technical level or whatever, or, like, try to get to the next level of both technicality, but also accessibility, and that's kind of, like, been the balancing act that I've really wanted to get to on this record, and that's why it's been, like, one of the harder, or why I feel like I'm making some of the best things I've ever made, like, because I feel like my relationship to language and how I'm trying to use it has been both, like, I don't know, like, annoyingly or dizzyingly, like, esoteric at times, and then, like, just trying to use words that are more, like, or terms or sequences of words and ideas that are just way more blunt and way more to the point. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, we talked about those, like, main three rhyme patterns, and I think, honestly, the whole verse literally started with, like, the opening line where I say, like, I've got no will, cut into the fondant, hurry, like, that moment of, like, just cut the cake, like, do the thing, I can't sit around and wait, you know.
Yeah, stop the ritual,
and just,
stop
like,
the pretense.
hearing that, like, I had that, and then I think, like, also, I think literally this whole song might have been written off of the thought of the word fondant, and then from there I just kind of went nuts. But, like, I felt like in such a pithy statement I had begun to unlock this funny like, this one scene, I began to, like, unlock this like, character of my frantic young to now self, and, like, what that journey looked like. And so that kind of started broadening, and then, yeah, like you said, like, there's all these little random, like, fourth rhyme pattern, fifth rhyme pattern, sixth rhyme pattern moments that, you know, I think, like, for me personally, like, I know for a fact that, like, some people are going to listen to this thing and be like, whoa, what is he saying? It's just kind of, like, keeps looping in on itself, and being aware of that and feeling it myself when I was, like, rapping it and writing it, you know, you begin to get constrained by these specific patterns that you chose, and then I find it like, oh, okay, I use this, and then I use this word or this term, and I have some space to fill out and an idea to convey. So then, instead of just say random words, like, why not make a chain of a new rhyme, just to, like, have this little island pop up of, like, reprieve from the rhythms that you're used to already, and the melodies of the rhymes that you're used to already. And, like, that's kind of, like, what inner rhyme patterns do for me. The thing is like, with this, like, the whole line, like, the inner rhyme patterns are even now the main rhyme pattern, you know, there's 3 of them happening. So I needed to, like, pepper in these little, like, moments of, like you said, just some like, a little scenic view on the way to the song, like, through the song, of, like, oh, well, look at that he says chatterbox jabberjaw, I had to talk, and then it's like, okay, we're back in the familiar melody or the familiar rhymes or whatever. And, like, that's kind of when I listen to song, you know, like, for me, the people I listen to, there's always reward upon re-listening, and the value of re-listening is not necessarily just, pardon the pun, like, catchiness, but, like, it's also just the idea that, you know, you're going to be gifted something by going back, you know, like, upon putting it under a microscope, it will reward that action, you know, that, like, analysis, right? So it kind of, like, took that to heart in making a song like this, or all of them. But yeah, that's kind of, like, my thought with that.
It feels like it. I mean, like I said, it's like, it lets you fanboy out, and that is my favorite kind of art, you know. Cool. Yeah, I mean, anything that you explore and then you get to look back at years later and say, I didn't even notice that, or that he was doing this. What's great for me is knowing you as an amazing freestyler and rhymer and rapper. to know that, you know, it's, we would know when we phone it in. We would know when we're relying on crutches and filters and fillers. And but what's great is, you know, when you hit a rhyme scheme that's so fresh and new and unconventional, it sort of is like, it lets you see how Daredevil sees for a moment. It sort of triggers this sense of like, wow, there's so much more out there. Like now I know that. And one of my favorites is, you know, off the fondant, the AllOne, the odd duck, as we get to the second stanzas and we look at yacht club, prom hunk, pop punk, and those kind of buzzwords that really hit and focus on an era. I feel like that's the strength of
phrases that exist. And that's like those are like the best rhymes, right? It's like it's a phrase that exists and it's relevant to what you're saying with the rest of the words or whatever in like a multisyllabic rhyme. Like the ideal ones are like, you're not just chaining words of sounds or sounds that happen together, like what you said before when you said that's probably what you meant when you said like you liked the chatterbox, jabberjaw, had to talk, like all those things like mean the same thing and lock in perfectly phonetically or whatever.
Totally.
Like, and like that's, but yeah, I feel you, like, and that's something like when I'm trying to use, like, I kind of hate when you're listening to someone and you can predict the rhymes, right? Like, and when you've rapped long enough and when you've freestyled enough and you listen enough hip hop, you're like, oh, they just said purpose. Oh, they're about to say service,
nervous, whatever,
nervous and perfect and all that, and like, so when you get to hear that, like you said, like you get to hear like, oh man, I would have never connected that. Like that's the stuff that like lights my brain up when I'm writing something and I'm like, oh, what's left in this? Or like I'm drawing, especially if I'm drawing out the rhyme scheme so long, like I've got to be using stuff that like is legitimate, right? Like but like is a total like sudden like hairpin turn that you were just like your brain was not ready for. And like those are the moments that I'm like, when I hear someone rapping like and they do that, I'm like, oh, this guy.
Yeah,
you know, like, and that's what like I'm hoping to do. And someone hears the songs or whatever, they're like, whoa, I would never thought of that, or like how, you know, like that. That's the people I want to listen to, is like the people that are making me wish I did that, you know. Like,
totally.
That's the most inspiring stuff.
I mean, you hit me with that all the time, especially when it's like, you know, it's like one of two things. The first is it's like I've had this rhyme scheme in my head for a long time. It's like perfect. I know no one's gonna use it. Like one of my go-tos to astonish people. This is like my key, 2 keys in. Lash goes up, everyone presses the button, right? This is like, it's temperature and emperor, because they go so well together. And so it's like, if I was working on that for a long time, go to a show and hear you do it, I'm like, come on, man. We're working on this. The second one is just hearing you do something that's like, just watching you stretch the craft in the field in a way that like, now I'm like, okay, cool, this is watching an innovator to do that. One of the lines that's, just want to go over a few of the lines that stuck out to me a lot. Sure. As a fan, as a listener. So the structure is amazing. It's really important to how you are creating the song. One of my favorite things are some of the descriptors like stone-built jock, junked jersey. So it's like a lot more burping than burpees, which you're talking about of like where you were saying this sort of duality or the dichotomy of like your being, of not fitting in either place, you know, as a nerd or as a jock. But do you want to get into that line specifically a little bit?
Yeah, like it's funny because so like I grew up a skater kid, but as having like a single mom, my mom was always like looking to put me into different sports and different activities to like keep me busy, because she was at school or she was at work, you know, like working on her career and stuff. So like I went in basketball, I went in roller hockey, I went in soccer a dozen times, I went in karate, I did all that stuff, and like none of it fit me and none of it made sense to me. And now I think, like, because skateboarding works for me, like, I think it's just, like, I need the individual schedule. I need the individual, like, no one's telling me a thing. No one, like, I'm just in my own brain. I'm in my own world with my craft or my talent or whatever it is, my skill, and I'm growing at my own pace, at my own time. But, like, so, you know, like, I wasn't, and I'm not like a built dude, like these cool hunky guys, like, or whatever. I wasn't in the, you know, I mean, like my parents are like well off enough, but like I wasn't with the rich kids. I wasn't with the cool handsome dude doing cool things or doing drugs or any of that. Like I was, you know, without a label, because that's kind of silly, but like I was basically the straight edge kid. You know, I was basically the straight edge kid. I was basically like just like a weirdo. Like I wasn't fitting in with jocks. I wasn't like I got eventually just stopped doing the sports thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I was just doing like dumb jokes and pranks and being the class clown, as opposed to like relying on looks, quite obviously, or like relying on talent in any particular way. More just kind of living as a spectacle.
Yeah.
And whatever notoriety or small town infamy that could get me, you know.
I love it because if you guys could have the joy of seeing some of Bruce's old antics on video, and you mentioned it, which is great, talking about Road Till the Cops Come Scurry, Tony Hawk. Man, love all that stuff, especially with like the shopping cart curb scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't shop at turkeys, got punched, box nuts, drop blood, flood. It's amazing, man. And I think one of my favorite lines, Awestruck, I'm nuts, law was Murphy's.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
And
when that one
yeah.
clicked for me, I was like, oh, it hits so good. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, wait, all of that works. Okay, keep it.
And you know what's fantastic is like, let's take the AllOne rhyme scheme, the
Yeah,
and you have
yeah.
law was Murphy's, gets back to the scurry, the journey, the tourney. When you have the overlap, it's funny because done with colors you can really see it, and I'll post it up with the white background, seeing all these colors overlap, because new categories of rhyme would emerge just from the blue highlight word over the green highlight word, the yellow highlight word. And so it would like open up for me, it's kind of watching like the AI just analyze your rhyme scheme and tell me like, oh no, you missed some. So it was really great to see some of these come together. And some of the really specific references, like Jotting Doug's, Rod Serling, which someone you've always identified with, right?
Yeah.
How, when you're picking your references, I guess, are they more a structural, lyrical thing, or do you typically have an idea like this song is this vibe, it has this sort of Twilight Zone feel, so I'll put it here, or this beat feels like this?
Sometimes a rhyme scheme will build, you know, like from a specific reference, because like you know the thing you want to reference, and then you maybe have the line and you work backwards, and then ideally I think in the best, like what we were talking about before, the best rhyme schemes, like you don't know what the origin line was. You don't know what the origin rhyme was. You're not like, oh, he said this to say that. Like all of that was the filler lead up to justify this awesome line or punchline or reference. Like and so like with the Rod Serling thing, it was just like I knew the Rod Serling, like the name fit into the rhymes.
Yeah.
It is indeed like someone like it was the feeling of like Twilight Zone, like it's kind of the message of like I'm saying, or I feel like I'm some weird character out of that, but also Rod Serling is an orator, and he's like a presenter, and someone that like I think of, like there has been songs like my song The Case of Sidney Behringer, like I structured that song, at least in the beginning part of the song, like thinking of Rod Serling, and like I wrote it as like a presentation of a Twilight Zone episode. So like, and Twilight Zone and on old stuff like that is like something I really enjoy watching and going back to. So in a narrative of my life, like it was also just like fitting, and wasn't just like a happenstance rhyme that was like, let me just throw that in because that rhymes in as a guy people might know, you know, like so yeah, it was a little bit of both and a little bit of neither.
I love it because once I heard the Rod Serling allusion, it's funny, the title instantly got that new value of like, oh, that's like the title of a Twilight Zone episode I'd seen, you know. Totally. And that's what's great through a lot of this song, which you'll see in the breakdown when you check it out, and you must check it out, is that things are referential in such a depth, such a deep way. Like it's not the subtle like, I get big and green like the Hulk, you know what I mean? Which is not even a great line anyway. But the references are great, and you get these like little vignettes of your personal feelings and your personal experience through life. One of my favorite parts towards the end, I mean, talking about rogue skills, broke quills, pose ilk, just being an avant-word freak, your soul healed by this work, and then especially right here, Old Hill, blurting, gosh, I'm bald, yup, 30s, but I'm young mercy, wallowed by the hands that the clock spun furious. And what's great is 30s and furious, right? It's one of those things where if you just had a computer say those words, it'd be like clear, not rhyme, you know? You failed. And what's amazing is that this is a great example of like how sonically you control the rhymes totally. But yeah, about age and talking about those things and dipping from technical stuff into like really deep personal stuff right back out. What's that flow like for you when creating these songs?
Well, something like I said, like I really wanted to do. I wanted to have a more like conversational. I mean, as obviously like no one talks like this, but like I wanted to have a more like conversational admission of not just like deeply emotional, like oh God, like I'm suicidal and sad on these songs. Like
Yeah.
I also wanted to just be like, man, I feel fucking old. I feel tired. I feel like embarrassed. I feel like achy, you know, and
Yeah.
like this is a general thing that's been plaguing me, right? Like, and that was kind of getting into that, and like I said, I mean, from the top of the song starts with a birthday, you know,
Yeah.
or it starts with like the image of a birthday, so like
Yes.
it makes its way to now essentially, and like where I'm at and where it's all led to, and you know, so by the final whatever quarter or whatever, however you want to look at the fractions of it, but like the final bit of the song where I'm like talking about where I'm at now, where this has all led me, and like, man, like time's flying, just like these rhymes are, just like the song is,
Yeah.
and like, and I'm feeling it, and it's beating my ass down. You know, I'm walloped by the hands that the clock spun, you know.
Furious, man, furious.
Yeah. And like I said before, yeah, I mean, I'm very aware, like a lot of these, I'm slipping by a lot of near rhymes, a lot of what Stephen King would call rape rhymes when he was a kid. Like, they're clearly not, like, they don't work,
Yeah,
right?
they're
But
just
like,
forced.
but as like a rap, like this is something, like, I don't do a lot of like weirdly playing with my voice. Like, I don't do a lot of, usually it's pretty straightforward in how I'm like rapping. It's pretty like right there. It's the phonetics are not like super wacky in order to make things fit, or I'm not like singing out the lines usually or anything
Yeah.
like that make things work. But like, I think of the rhymes and I think of words as having melodies to them, and like because you're riding these melodies enough, you know, this stuff gets by and it's fine. And really, like, I'm not hoping like, you know, it's not a perfect rhyme that I said that. Like, I'm now going also off of the melody and like almost like the part that's happening, like, so like you said, like weaving in and out of this thing. And so yeah, moments like that where it's like, oh, it's forgiving, like it fits in it. And I also like, I've been in a thing lately where I kind of think it's fun to use a rhyme that doesn't work, kind of like,
Yeah.
it slightly works. One syllable or two syllables of the 3 to whatever 6 syllables in the word, they work, and so they feel right, but they feel slightly off, and that gives you both the satisfaction of the mellifluousness of the rhyme or the locking in of the rhyme, but then it like takes you out of it for a second, which feels like this little style break or whatever that kind of, you know, I'm not like obsessively just feeding you the exact same sound the whole time, you know. It kind
Got
of
it.
like breaks the rule in like a cheeky little way, kind of, is something that I've been trying to mess with a little bit.
I love that, man. It's that sort of flipping of convention that gets us real next level art, you know. It's funny knowing you too. I know you identify really well with the peregrine falcon, right?
Yeah.
Big symbol of yours. And so it's funny when we start off, we talk about like duck, quirky, squawk absurdly, which is a moment where you do mess with your voice to give that squawk, which
Yeah,
is great.
yeah.
Love it. It adds a subtle level of like theater to it.
Yeah.
But then we talk about birdies and we talk about like flock and all these kind of things. When you're doing that, is that a percentage of that sort of slips out, or is that all on purpose?
I would say like those things will come up, and then I will continue. Did you move the camera when you did that?
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah. No, I would say generally like something will come up, and then I'll just do like an associative wordplay thing where, like, you know, I say I have no bills, like I don't have money. Odd duck, like an odd duck wouldn't have a bill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like no bills, odd duck, quirky,
Love
squawk,
that.
absurd. So like, and then yeah, I'm just like a wacky guy just doing bits a lot, you know, like for as serious as the music goes. That's something that like I think why Frank, the record producer of this album, like why I think he likes this song is because like, you know, a lot of the songs are really serious. They're like very like stern and sophisticated and abstract, and like I'm in person and like between takes and shit, I'm a really goofy guy. Like, I mostly just joke around and do bits and have fun.
Yes.
And like, but like, the art is also a way to deal with all this stuff. So like, I think doing things like that squawk moment and whatnot, and loosening up and like letting the personality come through, which is something I really try to do in the performance of a lot of the all the songs on this album, but like this song specifically in like a playful way. This song I think of as playful where necessary, and then like later on I'm practically like snarling some of the lines when I'm getting into like how deep and messed up things are, and the severity of how I needed to be saved at times from the creative experience, right, or expression. So yeah, that stuff just kind of like something pops up or an idea comes, and then like the second draft is usually putting in the rest of the Easter eggs to like connect the threads and like let things come in later, whether it's several lines or the other half of the song where you're like, oh, there's some symmetry that like two people will notice. But,
Yeah.
like, it satisfies me and those two people.
Well, it's fantastic. I think that's like something that I know you and I always deal with, which is being a craftsman. How much detail is worth how much detail is worth imbuing into it for the final product to be actually recognized for that detail. And I think today we were discussing that it's enough for that one person to be like, whoa, this is a Lovecraft reference,
right,
from a super obscure Stephen King reference, something,
right.
But it's fantastic, especially with I think your fan base. It's you get a lot of people who just know you as a great poet and spoken word artist, and then people who think of you as just an amazing rapper know you as a great freestyler and battle rapper. I mean, there's obviously a lot of overlap there, and then a lot of people who know the real truth of you as a fantastic musician and just overall vocalist and frontman. So breaking this stuff down, I'm excited to do this, man, to just show people a little bit, and this isn't even that deep, just a little bit of the work that you're putting into it, which is huge. So this album, man, when is it? Where is it? How do I get it? Where do I touch it?
It's definitely on the allOneVoice.bandcamp.com. It's definitely on that. When the album fully drops, which as of recording this, I don't know that we have a date yet, but it will be available on everything: Spotify, CD Baby, like Amazon Music, Pandora eventually, and all the streaming services you might use, YouTube as well, and all that stuff, like where we're going to be releasing videos and stuff. And this guy's doing a video.
Yes, I will. I will add it in here. This is the feedback loop of promotion.
Yes.
So AllOne stuff, I'm going to add all the links below, everything that you could possibly need, and you should definitely check it out. This is someone who constantly works on their craft, and not just as a selfish thing. This is someone who's trying to give something to the world that's different and beautiful and well thought out. All the links will be there. I'll put up the breakout so you can see exactly how it's actually a breakdown, to see how these lyrics and rhymes are broken down by this genius of a writer. Conscious Robot, Frank Bones, I'll give a reference to them. Conscious Robot guys, super generous, magnanimous folks.
Just give them all your money.
Just give them
money. Whatever you need.
And
Just
I've relied on Frank many times. Frankie Bones, man, fantastic producer, engineer,
dude is the best.
and just a great guy. Like you said, man, it's like people will read some of your material and be like, this is a really fantastic writer, and he has such a grasp on serious concepts, and he gets so deep. And then hopping in the studio with you and Frank and just making middle school jokes. The most notifications now, but that's my fault. So The Catch, love the song, man, and I'll include a little bit as much as YouTube will allow me in the video. But it's great. It's on Bandcamp, and just excited for this album, man. It's like one of my most heavily anticipated projects. Not my projects, but
no, it has nothing to do with the fact that you're on one of the songs, does it? Oh man, that was
man, what a great song.
You're the first rapper that I ever featured on a song.
Thanks,
so
man.
There's a good.
Let's get
reason
into
for
that.
There's a good reason for that.
All that I am, but all that I am is all that I have. I'm gonna catch this calling I have, but until I have, don't call me a catch. All that I have ain't all that I am, but all that I am is all that I have. I'm gonna catch this calling